I am Dr. Ann Cavallo, and I am the Assistant Vice Provost and Director of the Center for Research on Teaching and Learning Excellence. I am also a Distinguished University Professor of Science Education. We will start this program today with a welcome from the Dean of the Graduate School and Interim Vice President for Research, Dr. Jim Grover. Jim.
Good morning, Ann. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming out to this conference. It is really something which speaks well to your commitment to teaching that you're willing to come to this. And I would like to acknowledge that this year is going to be a challenging one in ways that none of us would have anticipated 6 months or a year ago. I know that the spring was very challenging for those of you who were involved in teaching through the transition to online learning because of the pandemic circumstances, and that those circumstances remain with us and continue to make both professional and personal lives very complicated and difficult at this time. So I want to thank you for your dedication in coming out and coming to a conference like this where you can learn some things about improving your ability to teach and your ability to reach your students and enhance their learning. I did want to take just a few minutes to share my screen with you and let's see, to share my screen with you and to tell you a little bit about one additional opportunity that some of you might want to take up in order to become more proficient at your teaching. And let me see, up to the beginning of this, I wanted to spend a minute talking about the Center for the Integration of Research, Teaching, and Learning, which is a national organization which has a local implementation. I'll be using the acronym CRTLE, C-I-R-T-L, when I talk about it, and our local implementation is CRTLE UTA. The CRTLE National Network is an organization of several dozen doctoral universities that have come together with the goal of improving teaching and learning primarily in STEM areas by helping to train future faculty, that is, graduate students who will later go on and become faculty members at universities, training future faculty in how to be effective teachers who promote the learning of their students. And the CRTLE organization itself was founded by the National Science Foundation. That's one reason why historically it's had a strong focus on STEM teaching and learning. But I do want to emphasize that a couple of things about the organization which make it a little bit broader than just the STEM fields. One is that there is a lot of online national network programming that's available, which is open to anyone, regardless of their field of study. And some of that programming is very general in nature and really will help just about anyone become a better teacher. For example, there are courses on the basics of online teaching and learning. There are courses on inclusive teaching for diverse students and topics like that. And if you really look at what the core ideas of this organization are, they are things that are very general, which apply across a wide range of teaching areas. They're the idea that if you approach your teaching as a research sort of process where you need to learn and improve in a systematic way, that will benefit your teaching. You can construct learning communities where different people, students, as well as professors who are practicing teaching come together and learn to improve what they know about teaching and learning. And then there's the idea of learning through diversity, which is that in a classroom full of people, there are diverse people who bring their own perspectives to the learning that they're doing, and there are ways of leveraging those different perspectives to enrich the process for everyone. Particularly for those students who get involved with CRTLE UTA and go through the programming that CRTLE UTA offers, we're able to provide a certification on your transcript. It is a certification in STEM teaching, so this is one of those areas that's a little bit more STEM focused, but it does enable one to get a qualification on their transcript that they can put on their CV, which will be helpful when going on the job market for faculty positions in the future. And as an example of some of our local programming, we offer small grants to support graduate students who want to initiate and lead a learning community among other graduate students. We offer some support for teaching as research projects. And something which we've just started doing fairly recently with a grant from the National Science Foundation is a set of fellowships that will support a mentored teaching experience and basically a teaching practicum or a teaching internship at Tarrant County College. And this particular part of the program, because it's supported by the National Science Foundation, is limited to STEM areas. But again, there are aspects of the CRTLE UTA programming that really would be available and useful to anyone. So that is what I wanted to tell you about this morning by way of welcoming you to this conference. I hope you'll take advantage not only of what you learn at this conference, but of other opportunities, whether that's CRTLE UTA or something else, to continue to improve your teaching during the time that you're here at UTA. So with that, I think I will turn it back over to Anne, unless Anne or someone wants to ask a quick question or two.
Feel free to ask any questions at this time. We'll gather any questions throughout the day, so you can also put them in the chat, and if they're for Dr. Grover, we'll make sure that he gets them so that we can quickly respond to any queries you might have about that program, the CRTLE UTA program, or our own programs here at UTA. Thank you, Jim.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks. Okay. Okay. We will now begin our program. So to follow up with Dr. Grover, we also happen to have the acronym similar, CRTLE, CRTLE. Only ours is for all disciplines, the Center for Research on Teaching and Learning Excellence. And as Dr. Grover mentioned, CRTL also has applications to all disciplines. So really take advantage of both while you're here at UTA. We're here to support research-based teaching on campus in both on face-to-face and online environments. And we work in collaboration with the graduate school. We have an active program for graduate students, so there will be follow-up sessions to today's session during the academic year. We will send those announcements out through your listserv, through Leah Cullum, who sends them for us. So now I would like to go over the day. We'll start with myself. I'll introduce the presenters and then turn it over to Dr. Clark. So presenters today include myself, and I already introduced myself, and then we have Dr. Andrew Clark will present today as well. He's Associate Director and Director of the QEP within CRTLE. We have Dr. Beth Fleener, who's a Senior Teaching Innovation Research Associate for CRTLE. Dr. Nali Kim, Teaching Innovation Research Associate for CRTLE. You've already met Dr. Jim Grover. And Leah Cullum will speak towards the end of the day. She's Assistant Director of the Graduate School. We also have one of your own former PhD students who just completed his dissertation this summer. And now he's Dr. Sarker. And he's a research assistant and has been for CRTLE and also works for CRTLE UTA. We also have faculty fellows in CRTLE who will be here, Dr. Amy Austin and Dr. Thomas Dombrowski. We have two undergraduate interns who are help facilitating, Sean Sandlin and Joshua Shin. So you may from them. Okay, now I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Clark to give the overview of the agenda. Sorry, next page. Dr. Clark.
Okay. You think I would have learned by now after a whole summer of doing this.
Technology, you know what it is.
Yeah, I know. Well, so thanks, Anne, and thanks everybody, and welcome. It's great to see so many of you, whether you're here in the United States, or I know we've got a number of you from overseas as well. I looked and I saw that we had registrants from India, from Germany, from Greece, from Iran, and from Canada as well. So it truly is not just a local conference, it's a global conference. This is the way that the day is going to look, and hopefully we've built in some breaks for you throughout the day. And, we recognize that you may have other obligations, or you may have a class to attend as well. So, if you have to leave and then come back, we understand that certainly. Our first session will start off in just a couple of minutes, and with Dr. Beth Fleener and Dr. Nali Kim. And they're going to be talking about aligning learning outcomes, activities, assignments, and assessments. So really foundational material in planning to teach. So whether you've taught before or whether you've never taught but you're hoping to, we really know that this session is going to be very, very useful for you. There'll be a break then from 10:15 to 10:30. At 10:30, I'll be talking about teamwork, effective practices in teaching with teams, and also talking about a university initiative centered around teamwork. At 11:30 to 12:15, we will have a lunch break, but during the lunch break from 11:40 to 12:10, Dr. Gautam Sarkar and CRTLE staff will be available for just an informal question and answer on the GTA experience. And so Gautam was, like Ann said, graduated with his PhD in the summer, but I mean, he spent many years as a GTA working with CRTLE, both CRTLEs, and really has a passion for teaching and learning. So if you've got questions to ask just from a graduate student perspective about what you may expect or what you have encountered and just want some advice or talk things through, that's for you. So that half-hour session. 12:15 to 1:15, Dr. Cavallo will be talking about advancing student thinking and learning. And so she really focuses on how students learn and how we can reach out to students through engagement and learning. Another break then from 1:15 to 1:30. At 1:30 to 2:30, all of us will be talking about student interactions and management in on-campus and online courses. So we've got some videos that we'll be showing, and then we'll be talking about the scenarios that we see in those videos. And we know that, again, I think that they'll be very, very useful for you, again, as you teach or as you plan to teach. And then our final session of the day is particularly focused for international students. So Leah Collum from the Graduate School has a presentation on navigating the U.S. classroom. So if you're new to the U.S. or you've been here even for a semester or two and you're still trying to figure out the norms in the U.S. classroom and how to interact with students and what to expect, then this will be a must session for you, and that rounds out the day at 3:45. So again, welcome. It's great to have you with us. We're really, really excited about this day and what we have in store for you. And Ann, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you. We, again, are so pleased that you're here and are attending our conference. I also wanted to give a shout out to Lucinda Burkle, who's here. She's also been assisting our program, and so you may see her around as well today. If you have questions anytime during the academic year or today, anytime, there's our email, and there's also our website, which has many, many resources for you to help support your teaching. And then, as I mentioned earlier, check your email and the CRTLE newsletter, which we send out to the graduate school, and then they forward to you so that you can follow and attend our graduate student program throughout the year. So I will now turn it over to our first presentation. I think we're right at 10:15. So I will turn over the slide to Dr.
Or 9:15 if you're in Central Time.
Oh, I'm sorry. I have to be in New York. I forget. 9:15. And I will turn it back over to our first presenters. So.
Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Cavallo, for that wonderful introduction. I'm glad you could all join us, well, or afternoon or evening, depending what time zone you are in. My name is Dr. Beth Fleener, and my colleague is Dr. Nali Kim, and we're going to present, and I'm going to get ready to share my screen with this. We're going to present what Dr. Clark mentioned is really foundational things. It's just going to be a very simple overview. And so I'm trying to get my share full screen. I'm sure everyone can see this. Please let me know if you can.
Yes.
All right. Full screen. Technology is my friend. So, okay. All right. All right. So really, what is aligning and outcomes, and what is alignment? Okay. Why is it not going to full screen? See, technology is my friend. I don't know. There, okay. All right, so what is alignment? When we know about alignment as itself, in the general definition of alignment is that you have two or more entities that are joining together for a single purpose. And here when you teach courses, when you have education, alignment has kind of two factors that come together. We have an external factor that's usually mandated by your standards or content mastery objectives, accreditation standards program, college, or if your program or your unit teaches certification and licensure, these are some requirements. So these are external factors that really you have very limited control in aligning because you have to meet those compliance pieces. But then we have this internal part of alignment that's really those unpacking those standards and decoding it and really understanding what those standards mean or embedded in those. And those are usually those activities, assignments, and assessments of what students do or how they will do it. And it's continually evaluated and reevaluated as students work through either the unit or the course and that entity. All right, so then why do we align? What's the purpose of alignment? So when you align your external and your internal factors, you're looking at the scope and sequence of when you're teaching. So scope in itself is really the areas that need to be developed in this unit, depending on what you're teaching. And the sequence is the plans or the pacing or how you are going to actually measure the student outcomes when they're learning. In addition to the why is the accountability piece to measure the student learning. Okay, so is it activities or assessments or assignments? How do you measure that the students are actually learning what they're supposed to be learning? So that's what that student learning and measurement is. And the second or the third one is effective and focused instructional time. I'm sure that we've all sat in instructional or courses where the point of what they're talking about, you're like, what's going on? But this, when you align, you actually focus your time and your instruction on what you need to teach. And so it makes it more effective, it makes it more engaging for the student and things like that. And so the fourth one is the authentic learning experiences. So why you align is this is where you pull in this engagement piece of why they want to learn it and the authenticness of it. And that usually comes through, again, activities, assignments, of why they're learning all of those pieces. So when you plan to align your external and your internal things, you have to think of, first of all, the outcome of the objective. Why do we need to do this? Are we looking at just the one day? Are we looking at a week? Are we looking at the whole unit or the content? Or are we looking at the course in itself? So what is the outcome? What's the purpose of doing that? And is it specific and measurable? So you just can't say something, you have to be able to be very specific in what you're teaching and can measure what you're teaching. And then it doesn't have an action verb. What's an action verb? We'll talk about that in a moment. And then the second part is the time needed to students to demonstrate it. So is it realistic? Is it obtainable? All right, so if you're going to teach something in a day, is it realistic for them to write a 4-page paper on it? No. Is it attainable and all that stuff in the time frame? And then do they vary? So make sure you have a variety of assignments and activities and not just one thing over and over. Many students have multiple learning methods and styles, so it's very important that you try to encompass all of that. And then the third point is really important for you as you teach or the understand, do you know the material? You have to know what you're going to teach. And when I work with my student teachers, and I've done it for years, is I tell them all the time, you will spend more time planning and preparing what you're going to teach than actually the 45 minutes of teaching. All right, so you have to know this inside and out. And so when you're working with students or you're giving feedback or any constructive, anything that you need for them to grow in that area, you need to know it yourself so you can help them. Okay, so let's just start with the outcome and the objective. So outcomes are very specific and measurable goals to develop conceptual understanding in one or multiple areas. So what does it mean to be specific? Specific is, will students, what they will know, do, write, or say. So you have to be very specific about this. And then is it measurable? It's conditions on how students will demonstrate what they will know and do and said and wrote. And then it includes the action verbs. So if you're new to the term action verbs, I'm just going to give you a quick little snippet of what that is. Action verbs come actually from Bloom's taxonomy in education, and it develops a higher level thinking skills. And when you are asking them to do something, are you encouraging them to develop higher level thinking skills? Are you asking them to memorize or recall? Well, those are lower level things. If you're asking them to analyze or to evaluate or to break down or create some new things, they need to then synthesize the information that you have asked them to learn, and then they come back and they have processed it and internally, and then they can be able to explain it to you. So those are those higher level thinking skills versus the lower level thinking skills. And in education, we're always pushing for the higher level action verbs. And so what does that look like? An example or a sample. So because we're all related to COVID-19 right now, this is our broad lesson topic for the day. Okay, so if you're going to say, students, we're going to learn about COVID-19, that is so broad, we don't know what we're talking about. Are we talking about, vaccinations? Are we talking about how it spread? Are we talking about how to treat it when you're in the hospital? Are we talking about the death rates that happen? I mean, it is so broad, we don't know. So a specific outcome objective would be more specific. So students will be learning about the 5 safety precautions to protect against COVID-19. Now, I even have more specific by saying 5, but you can just say safety precautions. See how more specific and focused that becomes. Then is it measurable? Okay, so how do we know that they know the 5 safety precautions? So a measurable outcome would be, okay, so students are going to do a poster graphic. Okay, so we can determine that they know about the 5 safety precautions because it will be demonstrated through the illustration, the creation of a poster graphic. Well, then leads us to the action verb that we have. Here the word is create. So that's a higher level action verb. That means they have to be able to synthesize the 5 safety precautions. They're just not saying it back, they understand it, and they create the poster graphic from it. So you can see how a very, very broad topic can be very specific and very measurable to determine students' outcome. All right, so then we're going to move over then into the activities and assessment. So really, when you're doing the outcomes, you have to align them with meaningful and comparable activities, assessments, and assignments. So what does it mean meaningful? Okay, the relevance to why they want to learn it. Obviously, COVID is very meaningful right now. So, okay, so we want to be safe. And so that's why it's creating the poster of the safety precautions is very meaningful. And comparable, can we track it? Can we mark it? Is there a rubric? So if you were actually doing an assessment or something, you would concern that. So with our example, okay, so comparable, yeah, and the spread rate is going down, people are washing their hands, they're social distancing and things like that. So we're actually putting to practice all of these things. So my colleague now is going to continue on with what activities and assessments and assignments talk about. So Nali, I'll take it to you. Nali, are you on mute? Dr. Kim?
Oh, sorry. You would think mute button.
Okay.
All right, thank you so much. So welcome, guys. So I'm going to start to talk a little bit about activities and assignments. So activities and assignments, these terms are used interchangeably. You see these in every single class that you take or that you will be teaching. So all these exercises, projects, discussions, and everything else will give students a chance to learn and then apply their new knowledge and then also practice their mastery of materials within that course. So some of the categories that we can look at are, is it an in-class activity versus outside of class? Another way to look at it is it an individual activity or an assignment, or is it something where it involves teamwork within groups? And another thing to think about, especially considering the time period we're in right now, is it an in-person versus an online? You may have noticed that within UTA, we do offer 3 different methods right now for this semester. And possibly the next semester as well. So it's an in-person, there's also the hybrid, and then the online version of it. So these are some of the things to consider when choosing activities and assignments, and just clarifying what needs to be done for the students. So here is a little word cloud of some of the activities or assignments that you may see. So for example, labs, of course, you will see them in science engineering courses, or report or paper, maybe something that is more common to see in some of the humanities and social sciences. Diagrams, analysis, research, all these are what we would consider to be activities and assignments. So then the next piece we have is assessment. So it's great that students can learn and apply, but then we also have to measure, are the students meeting those objectives and outcomes that Dr. Fleener has mentioned earlier. So what we mean by assessment is it is a wide variety of methods and tools that we use as educators to evaluate, measure, and document whether the students are ready, how they are learning throughout the course, and of course their progress, and just are they really getting the education that they need to be getting. And of course, these must align with the course objectives and outcomes. So there are 3 types to look at it simply. So we have the pre-assessments. That way we use these to measure what the students already know. We have formative. So this is more like a feedback that you would give them throughout the process. You will notice that it's more effective to give students feedback throughout the process rather than waiting until the end. So really just think about the time when you yourself were a student in undergraduate program, or even as you will be now, graduate program. And then we have the cumulative measurement. So this is really just to see how much the student has mastered that knowledge that they were learning throughout that course.
Okay, so this is where we have to take into situations of where you are in course autonomy. Because we have a variety of people in attendance here, we are not sure of where you are with your course or autonomy, if you're going to be teaching a course this semester or next semester, and what level of autonomy you will have in the course. So really with a course, there is no, well, obviously the external factor is at the accreditation standards, so there's really no autonomy with that, but the internal, the assignments and the activities and what the students will do. So teaching comes from not what needs to be taught, but how you should be taught. I thought that was a fabulous quote. So, but based on your situation, you may have full autonomy. The professor of the course may say, hey, go for it. But you may also have just very limited autonomy and you're just doing grades or things like that. But even if you are doing grades, what Dr. Kim was saying, you need to still know this material enough to provide the students feedback throughout the duration of the course for them to grow and to develop and to master those things. So we're going to give you some samples here. Okay.
All right, so these are actually courses that are offered at UTA, and these are some of the activities and assignments that you would see. So within College of Engineering, the Electrical Engineering 1106, so within that course, 20% of the final grade actually comes from pre-lab, lab notebook, and attendance, whereas the lab reports are about 30%. Within College of Nursing and Health Innovation, there are assignments that are low in terms of the grade makeup to like 4%, where it says nursing article summary for nursing 2300, whereas a discussion participation may be up to 30%. Of course, these are these activities and assignments, depending on the class that you're teaching, whether it's online or in person, could also vary as well in terms of how the students complete these activities and assignments. So here are a few more examples. So within the College of Architecture, Planning, and Public Affairs, a sketchbook project could be up to 10% of the entire course. Within the College of Business, this research experience program participation, it is actually a form of a survey that could only be about 4.2%, but it could be something that is used to help students kind of learn the process of what survey does, and then how it, and then it could just help to build their knowledge of the course. Within College of Education, there's a service learning portion, which is about 20%, and then within College of Liberal Arts, teaching demo videos can be about 15%. So for example, the teaching demo videos are things that could be completed even if it is an online course, because the students can actually do it outside on their own. And service learning would be something that also requires students to do work outside of the classroom as well. So what happens is with some of these assignments and activities, students are really encouraged to apply what they learn in class within a real life setting. That way it will help them to really, it helps to create this meaningful experience where what they are learning in class isn't just something that's in the book, but it is something that they can use. And then of course,
Sorry, Nali.
no, it's okay, don't worry about it.
Sorry.
So College of Science, of course, we cannot forget the labs. And then, of course, School of Social Work, there will be certain things like case studies and discussion boards. So what you may have noticed is that within different colleges and different course types, there are different types of activities and assignments. Of course, there are things that would work more effectively depending on the course that you are teaching, okay? But it's really, but the assignment and activities are really about giving students a chance to learn and then practice what they learn in class. And then of course, assessment, these are things that appear very commonly in almost every single courses. They have quizzes, midterm exams, finals, research paper, senior project. I know that within certain engineering courses or major, senior project is just like a 1 year long courses where they have to build something or present like a large project in front of the whole group. So that is something we have capstone and as well as teaching portfolio. So these are just some examples of assessments that you may see. Maybe you'll get a chance to create it, or you may have a chance to just grade it, but either way, it's something, it will give you a chance to see how much the students have learned within that class. So back to our sample earlier. So our specific objective was today, students will learn about 5 safety precautions to protect against COVID-19. So we actually have 2 questions for you guys. And if you could type in your answer within the chat, that'll be great. So the first question is, what are some activities and assignments that can help students learn about the 5 safety precautions to protect against COVID-19? And then the second question is focusing on the assessment. So what are some assessments that will help you to measure students' understanding of the 5 safety precautions to protect against COVID-19? Okay, so there's no right or wrong answer.
We just, again, we are working on, so now let's try to put some of this into practice here. So what are we looking for? So you can type it into chat. You're welcome to put your little hand up, and we can, if you just want to share, you can talk that way as well. But we want to see if we could put this into practice as some of these activities. So what are some things and activities and assignments that you can do? There is, again, like Nali said, there is nothing wrong. You can't do anything wrong with these answers. So do we have anybody willing to share? Do we have anybody in chat? I'm looking.
So we have a hand up.
Oh, okay. So feel free to share.
So Mr. Rock, you want to go first?
We could encourage like students to research on like health promotion models.
Mm-hmm.
For like maybe hand washing and things like that to prevent COVID-19.
Okay, that's good. I see you're found like you're really busy. That's a good idea. So that are you talking about what type of activity are they doing? What is your artifact determine that they've got it? What's a measurable thing? I missed it. Did she say something? Explore CDC website. Okay, so they were doing some research.
We were doing some information inquiry.
Okay. So then how will they, okay, so now I have all this information. How are they going to demonstrate to you that they know this? See, that's the question. See, that's where the activity and the assignments come in. What are they going to do to demonstrate that they have mastered this?
Sherby, do you want to jump in? Unmute. Sherby Jean.
Okay.
Yes.
I would actually, if we were doing in class, I would have a setup. And there's kind of some kid videos that came out when COVID was popular where they did the illustrations. So in class, I would just have them maybe demonstrate the process, how they counted, and that kind of thing. Or if it was online, maybe just kind of do a little video demonstrating how they had mastered the task and learned from the video.
That sounds wonderful because it then, okay, I'm going to share my screen again. I don't think I got the shared screen because the shared screen cannot display.
Not yet.
Yeah, I'm getting there. I know, I'm trying to jump back and forth. And so
it's no worries.
Yeah, so the shared screen, if I can actually get it up. Again, as I'm sitting there, I'm saying to myself, technology is my friend, technology is my friend, technology is my friend.
It's okay. While Dr. Fleener is
Okay,
figuring that out, we can look at some of the other answers.
There it goes. This is
Okay,
technology. Okay, so some of the examples that we did come up with were skits and activities. They can do that. And again, Dr. Kim can share some of these things because this is some of the things that we actually can do either face-to-face or online. Dr. Kim.
Yes, thank you. So some of the activities that we were thinking about was something that involved more of group work, right? So a skit could be something that is used to act out different scenarios to see which has the highest likelihood. So it could be that group of students are kind of acting out some of the things that they have seen within the news that are talking about how if you stand within 6 feet, if you attend certain parties or outings, you are more likely to contract COVID. Whereas we can have group discussion, right? Maybe this could be something in a more business class setting, then it could be creating a contingency plan as business owners. So that could be something that they can do. Between these two, a skit and a group discussion, of course, the group discussion would be something that can be conducted online, whereas skit, that might be a little bit more challenging. So of course, understanding the type of class that you are teaching, how you're doing it is also a very important thing to consider. For the assessment piece, earlier, if you remember our example that Dr. Fleener talked about, we mentioned the poster graphic. So poster graphic can be something that can be done by an individual. Whereas maybe creating a PSA video could be something that can be done as a group. And of course, depending on the way you want to do it, these can be done within class if it's an in-person class, or it could be done outside of the class as well. Okay.
Okay, so we left a large chunk, that's good to go, about 15 minutes of time for questions and answers, because we know that many of you are we don't know what college you're representing. So some of your questions and answers could be very specific to you. So we left this time now for you to actually ask us questions. Dr. Kim and I have actually taught, we're both UTA here. We teach classes here. I have an education background myself. And so if you just want to ask a question about something specific that you're in right now, we're going to open this time up for some of that. Or if you just need more clarification about a point that we just talked about, we'll go in more depth. Like Dr. Cavallo said, there will be follow-up sessions to this, but this again was just a very quick general overview foundation about outcomes and objectives and assignments and activities and things like that. So I'm going to unshare my screen now, and so that we can have some conversation. So,
Hey, I was
okay.
going to share a really cool activity about what you said that I love to do, but since I teach science, I teach teachers how to teach science, it fits. But there's two. There's one where I give them I have a set of glasses, cups, like just solo cups that a number on the bottom. And they have, all of them have water except one has white vinegar and a little bit diluted so that they don't smell it so much. And I give everyone one of those cups. And I know which one was the one with the vinegar. Then I said, okay, we're going to let's pretend we're at a party and you go up to a person and you give them half of your drink poured in their cup and they put half of theirs in yours. And then go to another person and do the same, and then go to another person and do the same. And they go around the room, right? And then I go, okay, now go back to your seats. And now I'm coming around with baking soda. And baking soda and vinegar, it fizzes. So I give them each a little, medicine glass, those little cups full of baking soda. And I pour it in your cup, and if it fizzes, you have the virus. And so then they put it in, and they're surprised that so many of them fizz and they're like, what? And so then I said, now you got to figure out who had the cup with the virus, which was the vinegar. And you got to trace who you shared your cup with and go back to that person, and then that person. I mean, it's mind-boggling, so we're all like, what? Oh my gosh, I can't. And there are some who didn't get it, who didn't fizz. And so they can kind of make a big map on the board, and we go through it and figure out who was it that started this all. And then, it's just it gives them an idea of how difficult it is to actually trace the source. And it also is about how easy it is to, when you're in a crowd, to catch the virus. And so then the way to evaluate it, I can throw that out to you all, but I have them come up with a concept statement. Okay, what's the statement? And it's pretty much what I just said. If they can articulate the difficulty in tracing the source and also how easy it is to pass it along, then that's then I think, okay, now they've got something about viruses. So, and it's something they can do with their students. So that's one of the things. There's a couple others like that. Anyway.
So Dr. Cavallo, I love your example because it really brings to light the meaningfulness of it, the real life application versus just reading it through the textbook, like Dr. Kim and I have been talking about this week. Students really need to understand the why to it. When I used to teach my students all the time, it's like, well, why do I need to learn this? And by actually putting in some real life application, like you say, sharing the cups and things like that, that it becomes more real to them and an understanding versus just reading the words off of a textbook page. So even when you do that, when I teach math and they're like, why do I need to know percentages and things like that? So I introduced restaurant menus, and they had to order things from restaurant menus and do the percentage for the weighting of the tip for the staff and things like that. So I understand that. So those are the things that we can implement and help you understand. Dr. Kim, you have anything else to share?
No, I love that example. I think it would really help students to really think about how it really could spread without them really realizing it, right? And that's what's happening, unfortunately, in the world. But I think it's a very effective way to go about doing it. I think Dr. Clark actually had his hand up.
Yeah, I was just going to say, and I put it in the chat too, but I think the PSA is a great way. And I mean, I'm biased, obviously, being a broadcast professor, but because what it does is it really just helps students to address the issue. So if you're going to communicate to an external audience, about a problem and maybe how to solve that problem or how to counteract something, then you need to do your research and you need to think through it, and then you need to come up with a way to be able to communicate that to this external audience. And so, I mean, a good exercise with the PSA is to have varying audiences, whether it's children or whether it's adults of a certain age or whatever. And then, you don't need a lot of equipment. I mean, everyone has a smartphone. It's capable of shooting very, very nice video, and editing can be fairly minimal. But it really, if you go through that process, and particularly if you talk about, who is the audience that you're addressing and how are you communicating this problem, to them, it really gets students involved in the whole process.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to share something or an idea? This is an open forum right now, so.
Yes, Dr. Cavallo.
Okay, I have another one. So another one I do, you can get this stuff, we call it glow germ. I don't know what it's like a lotion.
Mm-hmm.
And you've seen it because there was this viral YouTube video about it. But anyway, you got to have that. You got to have black light, which I did purchase, as lab equipment. And then the students rub it, they rub it. I don't necessarily tell them. I just say, here's some lotion. I know I probably should tell them what it is, but they put it on. They don't have to, but they can if you want to put some lotion. Okay, then we actually do the cup activity, right? And then after the cup activity is done, I get the the black light, and go around and see how much their fingerprints, how it glows wherever you touch.
Mm-hmm.
So all the cups and the table and things have this glow, and they see how that it spreads on surfaces. So then they go wash their hands, and then we do the glow light on their hands again and see how many places they missed.
Mm-hmm.
So little things like that, and then they go, oh man, I got to wash my hands better. So, okay, now you just really scrub this time and see, and then finally, they get out and they see it took a lot to actually clean the lotion off their hands. It's not harmful. It's not harmful. Nurses, it's used in hospitals all the time, so it's not anything, nurses use that. Maybe Thomas is on, he may have experience with that lotion, but yeah, I mean, of course they have the option to use it or not, but it's interesting to see how it also spreads on surfaces.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another activity to do with that. Sorry, I know I keep going, but anyway, go on.
That's great.
Mm-hmm.
No, and I think the key with all of this too is alignment, right? So it's about the activities, but it's going backwards. So starting with the outcome, what is it that you want the students to know and to learn by the end of the week or the semester or whatever period of time it is, and then how are you going to get there? And so it's aligning the activity with the assessment with the outcome, and that's what's so key about all of this stuff. So.
Mm-hmm. So, and the key to all of that is that you need to know that as the GTA or the professor, whoever it is, you need to know those things in order to help them. So if you have a student gets off track and not understanding that you need to wash your hands 4 or 5 maybe times, or wash it for 20 seconds, or sing the happy birthday song, you need to help redirect that. So again, regardless of what level of autonomy that you're given as a GTA in the course, you still need to know that material, and you need to know it very well in order to be effective in teaching the students to get to the outcome in the assessment of it. So,
and in all honesty, from my experience with working with some of the GTAs, you may or may not be selected to be a TA for a course that you haven't personally taken, or it's been a while since you have taken that course. So if you're in that situation, then you really do have to prepare quite a bit and then go back and review, because the students will be turning to you for guidance. So you really have to know that material, like Dr. Fleener mentioned.
So do we have any other questions about this? I know it's our first session, and we actually probably went a little quicker than we wanted to, but I was anticipating technology not working, so it actually worked pretty good. Any other questions? I don't want to have too long of a break. Dr. Clark, when's the next session start?
We'll have a break at 10:15, so we've
Okay.
still got a little bit more time. Tom, you've been putting some stuff in the chat, but maybe you want to talk about your experience and what you've done.
Mhm.
Yes, I've used that. I was reacting to that glow gel things. We've had we use this every time when we begin the Junior 1 nurses, which is the beginning of the actual nursing program. And so because hand washing is the most important thing you can do for infection control, and yet it is also the most neglected thing that's done. And so we try to reinforce that every method we can, but I think there's still room for more. I like the method that that Anne was talking about the glasses, the solo cups. I would love to try that to demonstrate how viruses spread to that.
You make a good point too when you put in the chat about kidding the students about lotion containing deadly bacteria, and then one of them believing you, and you're right. Even as a professor, as a teacher, one thing that I learned very early on is that you've got to be careful when you kid, because we know we're kidding and we may have a sense of humor, but not every student sees things the same way, and it's very, very easy for them to take something either out of context or not see the humor in something, and so I can see how that could have been an issue. It was a lesson for me very early on as a graduate student teaching, was that humor is good. Students they need humor, they like humor, it helps them relate to you, but there's always that one or two that don't understand or don't see it, or and then that's where problems can arise.
And Dr. Clark, it might even be a cultural thing, especially if we have international students or international GTAs. There may be things that are unexpected that come up, right? That's related to humor as well. So,
right. Right. Yeah. The goal is to, and you can let them know ahead of time, but whether or not it goes, that this is my way, and they get to know you, and I don't mean anything personal. And a lot of times the very first day you set the atmosphere in class, and you try to set that tone to where it's comfortable and people can talk, and yes, you can laugh. Learning should be fun. You should want them to enjoy what they're doing, and they're going to learn more and do more for you, but mutually respectful, of course, of always. But to set that environment the very first day of class is critical, and that comfort level. And so, and once they get to know you a little bit, it goes over much more smoothly. And you may spend your whole first 2, 3, I don't know how many classes just setting that tone, so they understand that it's a safe environment. We can laugh, we can make mistakes. It's okay. Everything's accepted. But I think you also just have to get to know your students and know what you should or can't or can say to certain ones or to all of them. So it's a learning experience for sure, and you're bound to make mistakes. So we all do. We all did and still do. we learn. But I think that the more you can immerse them in the activities of learning rather than just listening, the more they're going to take from that experience and remember from it, because they'll remember that as they go forward, that they had that experience, and it's more meaningful.
Yeah. And so, and it's nothing is wrong. When I was teaching too, you try something, okay? And let's say you tried the cup activity and it didn't work, or you work something a little different. So there's nothing wrong when you try new activities and assignments. You're trying it and seeing if it worked. And if it not, you reevaluate it, and maybe then we add the vinegar, or we add something to an activity. It was a good idea, but it just didn't work. So there's nothing wrong with reevaluating an activity or reassessing how effective it is to make it more meaningful. That's actually what a good teacher does. Okay, so we got some hands. I see that.
Amy.
Oh, Amy. I see Amy. Amy, would you like to share?
Yeah, what you were just saying, Beth, just reminded me of something that I learned early on, which is the abandon ship escape clause. And just to realize if you're in the middle of an activity and it's not going well, and you know it's not going well, feel free to abandon ship or just kind of regroup and realign. And that happens all the time. It's this negotiation between you and the students. And so, you know, early on, I would try to just push forward, push through the activity, even though I saw that there was confusion or muddling of information. And so feel free to abandon ship at any point and reassess.
So I see that Thomas has another question too.
Yeah, it's not a question. When I did a teaching as research project on where I was interviewing students about their understanding of infection, and one of the students told me about an experience she had had in a previous class making penicillin, as she put it. I think they just grew the penicillium fungus on orange peels, but she got so focused in the activity that she really didn't understand the whole point of that it was kind of a failed. It was a great idea, I think, a great activity, but it failed. She failed to understand what penicillin does or how it acts. It was kind of sad.
Yeah. So yeah, don't worry about having to, like she said, abandon ship. If it's not working, it's not working. Try something new. And so that's what is it. So
yeah, I've had students actually problem solve why something didn't work before, especially when it's a lab, and it becomes a different lesson, but it's a good one because then they learn what the nature of science is in my field, especially, you know, they'll learn that, well, sometimes things don't go as planned, and so science is imperfect, and it takes determination and finding the problems and starting over and going through it multiple times, many times before you get some kind of consistent result. So, and you know, again, that humor does help. You know, we just said, oh, well, I'm going to scratch this, you know, next time, and we'll revisit. But we actually did a lot of, I can recall one time in particular that the whole class came together to try and figure out what was wrong and why it didn't work. And I thought, wow, I'm not going to stop this. They're really I'm going to go this direction because they're gaining a lot of problem solving skills by them figuring out what went wrong with the experiment. So anyway, yeah, use it as a teachable moment. It's what they call it in education. Yeah.
So, all right, that's wonderful. So we're coming up to 10 o'clock. I believe it is a scheduled break time. So we take a moment. Thank you guys for joining our first session and really talking about good, solid foundations. The next sessions will actually build upon some of the things we actually talked about right now, engaging students, obviously with humor and some other things like that. So thank you for joining us this morning. If you have any questions, Dr. Kim and I are available to help you with anything more specific. We're part of CRTLE, so if you just like, I don't know, just email us. We'll help you through it. Okay, thank you guys. Have a good rest of your session. You're welcome.
Thank you both. We really appreciate it. And so we're just a little ahead of schedule, but that's fine. We're going to buy some time. So 15 minutes, we can take a brief 15-minute break. Just stretch your legs. We will hang around here. So if you've got some questions or comments, or you didn't want to talk, you know, during the session, but things have come up now, and even just about teaching in general. If you've got some questions about teaching in general, feel free to put it in the chat, and we'll be monitoring that, and we can respond to that as well as we go throughout the day. So feel free to use that chat resource. So we'll hang out here, but we'll take a 15-minute break, and then at 10:15 we will come back and we'll start with the session. There's no I in team, effective practices in teaching with teams.